Done? Sure. So we have, suppose S belongs to Rn. So what are the elements of S? Can somebody tell me what are the elements of S? Yeah, the elements of S will be n-dimensional vectors. Right? Vectors in the n-dimensional space. Okay. Now, think of a number B. Okay? Think of a number B. Right? Now suppose every element of, now listen carefully. Now suppose every element of S, okay? Every element of S has the property that the length of that element, because all the n-dimensional vectors, the length of each of that element is less than B. Right? Less than B. So B is such a number that B is bigger than the length of every element of S. So each vector in S is smaller than B. In which case, the set S is called a bounded set. Okay? The set S is called a bounded set. So, if it is true, yeah? Right? That the length of every X in S is less than B. We write this is for all X belonging to S, for all X belonging to S. Okay? Then we say that the set S is a bounded set. Is idea is clear? Right? Sure. So for example, is this a bounded set? -3, is this a bounded set? Is this a bounded set? No. Right? Because you can think of vectors which are infinitely long in this. Right? Whereas, is this a bounded set? Yes. Right? Is this a bounded set? Yes. Because what the length here, length of any vector is 1, right? It has to be. Right? The length of any vector is 1. Sure? So if I think of a number say 2 or 1.5 or 4 or 6 or 7 or whatever, right, I can always find the number so that every vector in this, every number in this 1 and 2 interval is less than that number in terms of absolute value. Right? So, yeah. Pardon? Yeah. No, it contains all points between 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. The open bracket contains all points between say 3 and -infinity. But this will not include 3. The round bracket does not include the boundaries.
Sir, what if there is a closed bracket 1 and elements are 1 and 2? Closed bracket 1. Only 1 and 2, but there are closed brackets.
Like this.
Yeah.
It includes all points between 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So the square brackets include all points between 1 and 2 and including 1 and 2. The round brackets include means all points between 1 and 2 but not 1 and 2.
So in this case, a set of 1 and 2, what is B?
See, what would be B? What is B supposed to be? B is supposed to be a point so that it is bigger than any number between 1 and 2. Right? So 2.1 would be good enough, 2.2 would be good enough, 3 would be good enough, 7 would be good enough. It's for you to choose. The problem is there will exist at least one B. There will exist at least one B, whereas in this case there doesn't exist any B. So such that the length of the vector is less than that number.
So the D should be within the set, right?
No, not necessarily. B could be any number. See, basically what do you want? We want the set, the length. So think of a vector S belonging. If you think of a set S belonging to R, every point in that set is an n-dimensional vector. Each of these vectors have a certain length, right? Think of a number which is bigger than the length of the longest vector. So there are some vectors which are longer, some vectors which are shorter, right? Think of a number which is bigger than the which is bigger than the length of the longest vector in S. Then that will qualify as B. Then that would be a number such that every vector in S is smaller than that number. And you could use any number like this, B is such a number, B plus 1 is such a number, B plus 2 is such a number. So the point is there must exist at least one number. The point is there must exist at least one such number for a set to be bounded. Remember, sets can be closed and bounded, sets can be open and bounded. Okay, the open set is this a bounded set? No? What is the highest length of any point? So if you think of a vector, think of the number 2. If you think of the number 2, all points within this interval will be less than 2 in absolute terms. All points within this interval will be less than 2 in absolute terms. All points within this interval will be less than 2 in absolute terms, won't they? Yeah? Sure? So therefore, there exists a point such that every vector, there exists a number such that every vector in that interval is smaller than that number. Pardon? Why would it be a closed bracket? No, because you want a set. Basically, what's a bound for a set? A bound for a set, if you think of a set in Rn, then the bound for a set is just a number so that every vector in that set has a length smaller than that number. Yeah? Right? Sure? Is this clear? So such a set would be a bounded set. For example, this set containing -2 and 0 would be a bounded set. Though it's a set which is infinitely many points obviously, which does not contain -2 and 0. The highest absolute distance in this set, the length of this set is definitely less than 2. Because it contains all points between 0 and -2 but doesn't contain 0 and -2 as well. Right? So the length of this set is less than 2. The length of this interval is less than 2. So if I use 2 for B, that would qualify as a bounded set. Everybody gets me? Yeah, so what's a bounded set? Everybody gets it? Okay. Now the point is, as I said, bounded sets can be closed in R, can be open in R. What is of great interest to us is closed and bounded sets in R. Sets which are closed and bounded. Okay, why is a set closed and bounded? So for example, think of the set. There are closed and a bounded set in R. Right? What is the importance of this set? The importance of this set is, why are we so much concerned about closed and bounded sets in R? Because, yeah, say this is say x. Yeah? Suppose this is f of x. And say think of some function. Okay? Think of say x1, x2. And think of the closed and the bounded interval x1, x2. And a continuous function on it. Then you see clearly that this function is bound to take a lowest value and a highest value on this set. So this function will necessarily have a maxima and a minima on this set. It's a continuous function. And all our economics is about maxima and minima. So in order to ensure that we have maxima and minima, right, the sets that we are talking about on the real number line will be closed and bounded. Right. Now this is okay to see in the, because it's a simple situation. Think of a 4-dimensional vector, say x1, x2, x3, xn. Then what you really have is a circle, right? And set of all points which have a length less than b, say less than some number, will be a closed and bounded set. Right? Okay, so think of, for example, a utility function x1, x2, x3, x4. Right? Okay? Now, as long as we are defining these continuous functions over closed and bounded intervals, right? Okay? They will always have a maxima and a minimum. Therefore, closed and bounded intervals are very important for us. A closed and a bounded set in R is called a compact set. Okay? So, closed and bounded sets in R, okay, Rn. Okay? Compact sets. Okay. Now, there is a very important theorem associated with closed and bounded sets in R, okay, which is going to be quite important when you do a little bit of higher kind of mathematics. Okay. That theorem is called Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. Okay? Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. Okay, so what it says is, the Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem says that if you think of a closed and a bounded set, and if you think of a sequence in that set, example would be to think of the closed and bounded interval 0, 1. Okay? And think of the set, think of the sequence 1 upon x, okay? X goes from 1, 2, 3, so on. Okay? X goes from 1, 2, 3, so on. Right, so what are we doing? When x is equal to 1, what will you get? 1. X equal to 2, what will you get? Half. X equal to 3, what will you get? 1/3. X equal to 4, you will get 1/4 and so on. So we are defining a sequence. So in terms, what's the sequence? 1 would be the first term of the sequence. Half would be the second term of the sequence. Right? 1/3 would be the third term of the sequence. So what we are doing is we are defining the function from x to r, where we say this term is the first term, this term is the second term, this term is the third term, this term is the fourth term. Right? Any such function is a sequence. Right? Where you say which is the first term, which is the second term, which is the third term, which is the fourth term, which is the fifth term, which is the sixth term, and so on. Right? Sure? Okay, so that is what you mean by sequence. What do you mean by subsequence? You take specific terms from this larger set and start them calling them the first term, the second term, the third term, etc. Like for example, think of the integers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is a sequence, because the first integer we say 1, the second integer we say 2, third integer we say 3, the fourth integer we say 4, and so on. But now if I think of the sequence of even numbers, I said 2 is the first element of the sequence, 4 is the second element of the sequence, 6 is the third element of the sequence, 8 is the fourth element of the sequence, and so on. So, with every element of with this sequence, what I am doing is defining a subsequence. You see the point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is a sequence. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is a sequence. Why? Because 1 is the first term, 2 is the second term, 3 is the third term, 4 is the fourth term, and so on. But then I can look at subsets of these numbers, the integers, and I say the first even number is 1, the second even number is 4, the third even number is 6, and so on. So with every even number, every subset of the set of integers, I can define a fresh sequence. Sure? Right? Okay. So what the theorem says is, if you have a closed and a bounded interval, okay, and if on this interval you have a sequence, then every such sequence necessarily has a convergent subsequence. That is, it has a subsequence which goes towards a limit, which is a limit point, which converges. Right? So what this theorem says is, if you have a sequence on a closed and a bounded interval, yeah, every such sequence will have a subsequence which will be a convergent subsequence. Now what do you mean by a convergent sequence? Can somebody tell me? We have talked about these ideas. It will have a limit point, right? It will have a limit point. So it will have a point such that for every open interval around that point, there will be some elements of that sequence for a suitably chosen n, right, which are different from the limit point itself. Is this clear? Now another way of looking at it to say that such a sequence will converge if the elements of that sequence keep on getting closer and closer and closer together. Right? So if a sequence converges, its elements will get closer and closer and closer together. Right? Such sequences will get closer and closer together are called Cauchy sequences. A Cauchy sequence, C-A-U-C-H-Y, a Cauchy sequence. Right? So if you want to prove a convergent sequence, you want to prove that the sequence is convergent, it is enough to prove that it's a Cauchy sequence. Okay, that is, as long as you prove that its terms are getting closer and closer and closer together, then you can argue that this sequence will be a convergent sequence. Right? The sequence will be a convergent sequence. Sure, are you with me now? Because what I'm going to do is to do two proofs of the Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. One is a simple proof only in R1, so you understand the logic, and I'm going to generalize this to Rn. Yeah? I'm going to generalize this to Rn. Right? It's not just an element. You see, think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's a sequence. What's the sequence? I can identify which is the first. If I put elements of a set into a one-to-one correspondence with integers, I have a sequence. Right. For example, all of you are sitting here in a particular sequence. He is the first element of the sequence, he is the second element of the sequence, third, fourth. If I decide a rule, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. So I can always say which one is the 13th term, which one is the 14th term, which one is the 15th term. Now if I say that instead of doing this, I am going to skip every one individual. So I start with him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can define a fresh sequence. So I have a subsequence. understand, a sequence is nothing but a one-to-one correspondence of a set of elements with integers. So I know which is the first element, I know which is the second element, I know which is the third element, I know which is the fourth element, I know which is the fifth element, and so on. When I see the batting order of a team, I have a sequence. Batsman number 1, batsman number 2. Yeah? So whoever is the opening batsman gets mapped into 1. When you are actually looking at a scoreboard of a cricket match, they don't write batsmen's names there, right? They know 1, 2, etc., etc. Have you ever seen a scoreboard of a cricket match? It says batsman number 1, batsman number 2, right? Then the batsman number 2 goes out, then batsman number 3. Sure? So what are we doing is we are associating with every player a real number. So we are defining a sequence. Right? Now suppose I define a subsequence. So I say batsman number 2, actually I'll call him 1. Batsman number 4, I'll call him 2. Batsman number 6, I'll call him 3. I can do that. Sure? Right? So that's how I can define a subsequence. A sequence is nothing but that, right? Now this Parker theorem says that if you actually take so if you have can you be a bit louder? No. For example, think of a closed set. Think of an open set. 0, 1. With a bounded set, which contains all points from 0, 1, but not necessarily 0, 1. Right? Okay. So think of a subsequence. Right? Think of a sequence 1 upon xn. As x tends to infinity, xn tends to 0. It doesn't converge to the set. Right? Then I can show that there doesn't exist a subsequence of this on the bounded interval, which converges, because it converges outside the bounded interval, which converges on the boundary, which converges actually on 0, right? So that's not necessarily true. So how do we go about proving the theorem? So everybody understands this, the Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. So first I'll prove it between just R1 on the open interval 0, 1, and then I will generalize it to Rn. Strategy clear? Okay. So now think of xn. n goes from 1 to infinity as an arbitrary sequence in 0, 1. The closed bounded interval 0. So what do you mean? What do I mean by this? I say there is a term called x1, which is the first term of the sequence. The second term of the sequence will be x2. x3 will be the third term of the sequence. x4 will be the fourth term of the sequence. And let that sequence be any arbitrary sequence. Let that sequence be any arbitrary sequence, right? Let the sequence be any arbitrary sequence. Is sure? Okay. Then now it's an infinite sequence, right? Because there are infinitely many terms. If you kept on counting those terms, your counting would never stop. Because the first term, the second term, the third term, the fourth term, the fifth term, the sixth term, right? Your counting would never stop. Sure? And because your counting would never stop, you have an infinite sequence. Right? Okay. Now, so let me now do one thing. Let me divide the interval. Let me divide the interval 0, 1 into 2 subintervals. Okay, so happy you got these, right? Sure? So what I've done, I've broken this interval into two sub-intervals. So that my bigger interval was the union of these two sub-intervals. Now, this infinite subsequence, right, must belong to either one of the intervals or the other interval. So now think of one of these intervals must contain a subsequence of this interval of this sequence. One of the intervals must contain a subsequence of this sequence, or both, right? Either both those intervals contain a subsequence, or one of the intervals contains the subsequence of this sequence. Yeah. Either this, or both would contain a subsequence of this sequence. Right. So, for example, this is the sequence 1 upon x. Right. So think of the subsequence 1 upon 1, 1 upon 3, 1 upon 5, 1 upon 7, and so on. Right? Sure? 1 upon 7, 1 upon 9, 1 upon 11, and so on. Right? Okay. So now, if you think of an appropriate subsequence like this, right, then you can think of either this interval or this interval containing one of those subsequences. Okay? Right. So for example, I could think of, say, 1 upon 2x would be a subsequence. 1 upon 2x would be a subsequence, right? Because it would contain half, 1 by 4, 1 by 8, 1 by 16, and so on.